Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Mayor and City Council Workshop, Wednesday, February 7th, 2024. If you please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please bear with me tonight as I got some sinus stuff going on here. Start off with the reading of the minutes from the Jan 8th, 2024 closed session. On Jan 8th, 2024, at 7:47 PM at City Hall, a motion was held to go into a closed meeting. The motion was made by Mayor Pro Tem McCarron with a second by Foster, carried 5-0. The purpose of this was to consult with staff, consultants, or other individuals about pending or potential litigation. The topics discussed were ramifications of termination of city attorney, potential litigation resulting from a PIA request. The persons present at the closed meeting were Mayor Miller and all council members, the city manager, and the city clerk. The actions taken at the closed session. Do I read the actions taken? Just to make sure, okay. Motion by Foster to rehire Jay Gello, second by McCarron, no vote was taken. Motion by Tillman to authorize city manager to consult with legal professionals to determine if the proper process was followed for the termination of the attorney, with a second by Fuller, carried 5-0. Motion to adjourn at 9:20 PM by Tillman, with a second McCarron, carried 5-0. Next up, we have the review of the minutes of Jan 3rd, 2024, and Jan 8th, 2024 regular meetings, and the Jan 8th, 2024 closed session. Is there any questions, comments, or concerns from council?
Only comment I had was the closed session, the motion made and duly seconded never came to vote, although it was called for. So I don't know whether that needs to be noted in the minutes or not. But and I'm not sure whether, I was under the impression that Councilman Tillman's motion was an amendment to that ordinance or that vote, and if it wasn't introduced as an amendment. So I'm just a little confused how those two articles were handled. It doesn't seem like they were handled in a proper way. We should have we had a motion duly seconded on the table. Should have come to some resolution, either be tabled or voted down or up.
Jim, just to check, I think you have also read the legal opinion that we received back from the currently temporary attorney that we have. And that, if I remember correctly, it said that that the council couldn't make such a motion. But I'd have to refer back to it. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Without it in front of me,
Yeah.
we'll, how about if we look into that and we'll modify them for Monday night if need be.
Okay.
I believe the discussion at the time was whether or not that was a motion that was suitable to be made in closed session. And I think that there was a consensus, if not voted on, that was not a motion to be properly made or voted on.
Well, it should have been voted down.
You may be right about that.
I don't think you could make the motion to
I
begin with.
I'm not sure of the rules of order on that. But yes, it could have been voted down. But I don't think it was a proper motion to make at that point.
For instance, during that closed session, it was to consult with staff, consultants, and other individuals about pending or potential litigation. We would have had to cite for the closed session to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matters that affects one or more specific individuals. We'd have had to have that checked for the closed session for you to make that motion for appointment.
I'll be happy to make that motion again tonight.
Again, if I remember correctly from the legal document we received, council can't make that motion, but I'd have to look it up real quick.
I don't think that's what it said.
I think that if I am following that, I guess the question is a procedural nature, that we had a motion on the floor and we had a second and we didn't act appropriately based on those events. So the fact that that motion was not something that we entered closed session for, was the concern, but procedurally, we may have erred on that.
I don't think the motion can be entertained if we can't make the motion in the closed session.
Yeah, if that's not something that could have been properly voted on in closed session, that was my point.
Why would you say that? Why
That-
wasn't it appropriate?
The motion that was made
Do it, we would have
was
had set
to
this for the closed session that we-
make a decision that needed to be publicly made and not made in a closed session.
And again, our closed session was only to consult with staff, consultants, and other individuals about pending or potential litigation.
All right, well, we can certainly correct that tonight. Thank you.
Okay. Proceeding on, any questions, comments, or concerns still regarding those minutes? Hearing none, I'm proceeding forward. I have 2 certificates of recognition to present tonight. One for Rocky Herring and one for Anthony Ritchie. I'll start first with Rocky Herring. I'll read it off and then I'll ask if you can come up for pictures and whatnot. Again, bear with me, my sinuses are all stuffed up. City of Taneytown Certificate of Recognition. This certificate is proudly presented to Rocky Herring in recognition of your extraordinary generosity and unwavering support to the Taneytown community through your partnership with the Taneytown Police Department. Your contributions have been instrumental in the success of numerous community events and programs, including providing food, drinks, refreshments for the National Night Out, annual donations for the Pack the Police Car food drive, and supplying hot chocolate for the December to Remember event. Your commitment extends beyond these events with notable contributions to the Taneytown Museum and petition and mock interviews at FSK, showcasing your dedication to the welfare and betterment of our citizens. Your actions have significantly impacted the Taneytown community and embodying a spirit of selflessness, a selfless service, and community support. Your efforts have enhanced our events, supported our residents, and fostered a stronger, more connected community. We are profoundly grateful for your generosity, your time, and your dedication to make Taneytown a better place for all. Your contribution is invaluable, and for this, we extend our deepest gratitude and recognition. Thank you for your commitment and generosity. Any members of council that want to join?
I'd like to join on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce.
I mean, I feel like that's weird. Should we? Do you want to?
Do you guys want to get up and take a picture with Rocky?
Yeah, I can go. Slide it. Come up here, get closer, we can get that picture.
Now all eyes are on you. I know. We're gonna have to get up there again, right?
Yeah, if you guys want to get him for the second one.
Yeah, we'll sit down while you read.
I will now read off the second certificate for Anthony Ritchie. City of Taneytown Certificate of Recognition. This certificate is proudly presented to Anthony Ritchie in recognition of your initiative, leadership, and community spirit through your partnership with the Taneytown Police Department to organize a toy drive for families in need. Your vision and action with, and pardon me, I hope I don't butcher this, tree experts have brightened the holiday season for over 400 children in our community, providing not only just gifts, but also a joyful and memorable experience for many families. Your efforts have not only brought smiles to many faces, but have also lifted the spirits and burdens of many of our members in our community during this challenging time of the year. Your collaboration with the Taneytown Police Department exemplifies a commitment to community support and engagement, creating a positive and lasting impact on the citizens of Taneytown. We deeply appreciate your generosity, your vision, and your dedication to fostering a sense of unity and joy in our community. Thank you.
Are we all getting up there again? Are you all standing up there again?
I know, poor Diane. do it again, or do you want me to stand up in the back?
Again, just want to say thank you to both of you. We do appreciate what you guys have done here in Taneytown. Next up, we have council member statements regarding conflicts of interest on agenda items. Do any council members have any statements to make?
I have none.
Hearing none, proceeding forward. Public comment pertaining to non-agenda items. Do any members of the public wish to make comment regarding non-agenda items? Hearing none, I'm proceeding forward to resolution, ordinances, and agreements. Introduction ordinance 04-2024, fiscal year 2023-2024, budget amendment 3. Any questions, comments, or concerns from council?
Jim, I do have a question about the lexical policy. It says contractual. Can you explain that a little bit more?
That is a service that will keep our police policies and procedures compliant with all the latest requirements as state laws change and such. So it's a subscription service. So whenever changes are necessary to policy based on any legislative actions that the state takes that the police need to comply with, this will help keep us current with that so we don't fall behind with our policies and procedures manual like has unfortunately happened in the past.
So is that $27,000 going to be an annual? Or is that just an initial fee and then?
Chief, would you like to?
The figure you have, 27, is a combination of the annual fee and the initial charge. The annual fee is $8,000. And in addition to that, we also receive daily training bulletins in scenario-based form, and they will back us if we have any issues with our policy. They're legal staff. Is that helpful? And I would be happy to give you any more information if you like it.
I'm not sure, did anybody else have any more questions? Or I know the police have a couple items on here. Did anybody else have questions for the police chief regarding items on it?
I think so. No, I had nothing on the agenda right now. It doesn't mean I won't have a question later.
I'll be happy to entertain it if you think of it.
But I do understand, just before you head off, I understand that there was a fair amount of traffic enforcement activity around the square over the weekend. I was away, but from what I hear, I like, and I thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for the chief? Thank you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Or Councilmember Fuller, did that answer your questions sufficiently? Roger that. Any other questions regarding the ordinance 04-2024 fiscal year 2023-2024 budget amendment 3? Hearing none, I'm proceeding down. Adoption resolution 2024-02 water allocation for February. Questions, comments, concerns from council?
None for me.
Hearing none, I'm proceeding down to city manager report.
Alrighty, let's see, we'll start with Roberts Mill Road project. While construction is substantially complete, we had a few administrative items to still handle with the contractor, so we worked on final change orders, the retainage, the amount of money we're still holding for things that need to be completed in the spring and so on. So that's all been worked out with the contractor. So at this point, we're just kind of in a holding pattern until the beginning of growing season, when the contractor will go back and reseed any areas that need to be reseeded. And there's probably going to be some fine grading that needs to be done at a couple properties. So what was done initially was really just to help avoid additional erosion or anything over the winter. But there are a couple properties we need to go back and touch up in the spring. So until it warms up, that'll just be kind of in a holding pattern. On stormwater management, the design's complete for the Riffles Lane storm drain replacement. Director of Public Works, Smeek, and I are working on the request for proposals, because this is going to, because of the need to repave a portion of Riffles Lane, this is in all likelihood going to go beyond the bid threshold. So initially, we thought it was just going to be digging a trench, putting a pipe in, but the engineer wasn't able to get a design to work because of the limited amount of fall they had between the inlet and the point where it outfalls into the state highway system. So we're working on the RFP for that, and we still have the remaining question of deeds of easement. You may recall that we got letters giving us the right to enter the properties and do the survey work, but we were not able to locate an actual recorded deed of easement for this line that crosses these backyards. So we want to get that taken care of properly before we go in there and start really digging anything up.
Is that tied up with the fact that we don't have an attorney?
Yes.
Is that, all right.
Yes.
Has the attorney that we have contacted, it seems as though there's been some expansion of his original scope.
This is one
part
of the
that?
things, depending upon what transpires over the next week or so, I expect I'll have the direction on whether we're going to continue to utilize this attorney for some other matters.
Thank you.
Lastly, the fiscal year '24 sewer rehabilitation project. This is the line that runs in the rear yards along West Baltimore Street and also down Memorial Park. We've provided notice to property owners that the survey work was beginning. Actually, at this point, the survey work has concluded, so we're waiting for the surveyor to get those details over to CDM Smith, and they will help inform the design for the rehabilitation project. So we hope to avoid some of the missteps that we had with Roberts Mill and Broad Street by doing a full survey this time instead of just spot surveys that proved to be problematic for the design in the long run. So that's moving along. Let's see. And that's about it for now. I do have one thing under the departmental reports that I can either roll right into, or if there are any questions, field them first.
Any questions, comments, concerns from council? Proceed.
Okay. Under the, Dan, if you can share my screen. Oh, I need to plug in for that.
Yeah, we need your Surface plugged in.
Plugged in everything, but what I needed. Okay. So this is mentioned in the IT report this month, but we now have a Taneytown Connect app. So this will work with both Android and iPhones. So we've been looking at this for a while, and it was cost prohibitive in years past, but has become more affordable. So basically, we're encouraging everybody to download this. There's hard copies with a QR code on the table over there, but this basically has most of the functionality of our city website. You know, our IT specialist refers to it as City Hall in your palm. So again, if you can, you can download this for iPhone, Android, and if you download it, you can also choose to allow push notifications. So things like any notices the city pushes, meeting announcements, inclement weather closures, anything at all like that can be pushed through, and you can get an alert on your cell phone. So hopefully this will help people stay informed of what's going on, just one more avenue for people. And also it gives another mobile opportunity to access information through the city website. So I would like to thank our IT department for all the work they did putting this together. So, but download it, play around with it, and you know, if we need to add some menu options and things going forward based on feedback we get, certainly we can revisit that. But, you know, we hope it'll be a good way to help people stay informed of what's going on with the city.
That's a wonderful step forward.
Yeah.
I think I'd like to kind of say thank you to Dan as well, and just
Yes.
point out that this was something that the previous mayor was very, very passionate about.
Yes.
And tried for a long time to get to work. So I appreciate Dan's diligence in staying on it and making sure that it continued forward.
Yes, and we were very fortunate that the expense of it has diminished. It just was not
Right.
something we could afford when it was first envisioned.
Yeah. I'm
And,
glad he didn't give up on
yes.
it.
Yep, so,
The Ask the Mayor and City Officials tabs there that I see as I look at the screen. If somebody clicks on that, does that send a question that comes through directly by email? And that will come directly to our inbox, or, you know, each individual's
yes,
inbox?
yes. It basically works through the website. So we have, you know, right, report a concern, we'll send an email to the info@taneytownmd.gov mailbox that we have, which is our, you know, basically our catch-all email, you know, for people who may not know specifically what department, but, you know, hey, my street light at, you know, 123 Annie Street is out, or something of that nature. You know, that's the kind of stuff that we see in the info mailbox a lot of times. So just a couple quick shots of, you know, of the app. But again, the QR code is there, and it's also on hard copy on the table there. So, or you can go to the App Store for Apple or Play Store for Android and download Taneytown Connect.
I like the pay the water bill. That's a step forward.
I don't think it addresses the primary concern that I've received with water billing, right? The charging, the extra charges,
right,
everything like
But
that.
what about parking fines and police citations? Can you do that?
So we can't do that at this point. The only credit card transactions we do now, or debit card, are for the water billing system. And that's a service provided through our water billing vendor. So we don't select that credit card processor. That's part of our water billing package. But the 3% fee seems to be a pretty standard across the board. I actually had a sales email for someone, you know, basically the pitch we receive often is, you know, put these transactions online and streamline things and save time, and that's all great. But then when you get to the credit card processing and it's going to cost somebody an extra $3 for a $10 zoning certificate, it doesn't seem proportionate to, you know, it doesn't seem to be much value there for the use of doing things online. And that's also why, you know, a lot of folks don't pay with a credit card. You know, the convenience would be great, or a debit card, but that 3%, you know, $6 on a $200 water bill, you know, a lot of people don't want to pay that. So it's just not worth the convenience for a lot of folks. So this does not alter that. You can still do it, but it still will have that same 3% fee that it's charged through the processor.
Yeah, I mean, that fee is pretty standard across the industry, so.
Okay. All righty.
Any
Thanks,
other
that's
questions,
all I
comments,
had.
concerns?
No, I like it.
Okay.
Looks good. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you,
Jim.
Dan.
Jim, did you have anything else?
No.
Down to new business. Monthly financial report. Questions, comments, concerns?
Go ahead, and I'll wait for the next number 2 there.
Proceeding forward, accounts payables. Questions, comments, concerns?
My question I had is I saw a $500 bill for mowing in the park, $5,000 bill for mowing in the park, and I was just wondering what we were mowing in January.
That's a pretty valid question.
I will have an answer for you on Monday.
Ever.
Any further questions, comments, concerns, accounts payables? Hearing none, proceeding forward. Morton Building, Inc., Memorial Park proposal. Questions, comments, concerns from council?
Question about that, is this something that should be bid? I mean, there's a lot of vendors that sell metal buildings. I mean, do we just have one proposal, or we have multiple proposals? Should it be a RPF out there for this?
So Morton Buildings is a, let's see, has pre-bid through a cooperative bidding service for their buildings. This does not obligate us to use a Morton building for the actual building. This is to develop specifications and all the details for the multipurpose building, but those drawings could be shopped to other providers. Morton built.
Specifying Morton building components, I suppose.
And it would be, I mean, I'm sure that there are things that may be in the design that would have to be substituted with, you know, or similar specifications, just like when the city, when we did our wastewater treatment plant, we didn't say that the bidders had to use flow-serve pumps, but the pumps that were specified in there were very much what Flowserve manufactured. And, you know, so I would expect a similar sort of thing in that the Morton building design may have features that are somewhat unique to Morton buildings.
I say,
So this is, the proposal is in 2 parts as I'm reading this, is it 40-some thousand for the design function, and then 800,000 plus would be their preliminary cost of a building that may go up or down based on what we decide to do with their plans. Is that, am I gathering that? So instead of going to
the
an
45
architect
the
and getting an
45 is the
architect to
design.
design a building,
Yes.
they have a pre-canned design that we're going to alter and carry forward.
Correct. This
And
gets
that-
us
and
the
that's what that
design
first number-
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Additional comments, questions, concerns regarding Morton Building, Inc., Memorial Park proposal?
At this time, we're just talking about moving forward with the
Design,
design, and it does not lock us into part 2 there.
correct.
Gotcha.
Any further questions, comments, concerns? Hearing none, proceeding forward to funding discussion for proposed public works facility. Jim, do you want to start off with that?
So as you know, we have in our capital improvement program a plan to replace the aging public work facility that's down in Memorial Park. They're kind of scattered across a couple buildings down there and the utility yard, as well as, you know, garages elsewhere around the city. So the idea is to consolidate everything and also get that equipment and stuff out of the parks. So we've acquired 5 acres off of Allendale Lane, as we announced, I guess, just last month or the month before. And we've been investigating grant funding for the building because it's going to be a very expensive project. We'd like to make this building large enough that we kind of future-proof it, so it will hopefully be, you know, sufficient as the city grows for many, many years. And this is not something that we're going to be able to pay cash for. So we've been looking for grant fundings. I know Councilwoman Foster has been keeping us appraised of opportunities that she thinks may be worth looking into as well. But I think we may end up having to have a combination of grant funding, use of fund balance, and borrowing money. You know, this is estimated as a roughly $7 million project at this point.
Holy mackerel.
So it's a
Not gonna get any
big,
cheaper.
it's a big deal. You know, and just looking at the price, for example, mentioned for that Morton building, you know, that's much, much smaller at the park. You know, the costs of building materials and buildings is just through the roof right now. But no, you know, no anticipation that it's going to start getting cheaper in the foreseeable future.
And that estimate that you just quoted, I don't think I can say it, but does that include the demolition of the old structures?
No,
So that's additional.
yes. Right. And some of those structures may be able to be repurposed for the parks.
I say,
So, you know, I think there is, you know, at least a portion of a building that probably needs to be demolished, just because there's, you know, some, to repurpose it would probably be more expensive than it'd be worth. So, at any rate, the new building, you know, is envisioned to last us a long time. It's going to also incorporate a training room and so on, and not just be a glorified garage like we have now. So the treasurer and I have been looking over our finances a bit, and I just wanted to have the conversation because we haven't discussed the idea of borrowing. We haven't taken on any new debt for the general fund in quite some time. And I just wanted to kind of run through some of the figures that we're looking at and just get some idea that, you know, hopefully, yes, this is something, an avenue that we can pursue. Because I don't think it's likely that we're going to be able to come up with a grant match with comfortably with what's in fund balance in the general fund. So we adopted back in 2009 a debt policy, and basically we can't have debt obligation that's more than 10% of the assessed valuation of taxable property in the city. So that one's easy to cover, because that would be like tens of millions of dollars that, you know, for that line would be within our realm. But the thing that might be limiting is total debt service for general long-term debt will not exceed 10% of the total operating revenues. So based on the current year's budget, let's see. So we could, let's see, where are we? A second, lost my place there. Okay, I'm sorry, I skipped ahead. So this year, our debt service is 122,000, and our current general fund debt is 755,000. So the maximum debt service that we can take on based on this year's budget would be $587,000 a year.
That's the
When we're-
service, that's the
The debt, right, that's our principal and interest payments. So if you consider that we have under $800,000 of debt now, and we're looking at a $7 million project, it's, you know, we can't afford to borrow everything. So, you know, this project's going to only be possible if we are able to secure grant funding. But I just wanted to bring up the idea of borrowing money for it. You know, we haven't taken on any new debt in the general fund for quite a few years. We've, you know, paid cash for everything. You know, we do have money in fund balance, but we also kind of want to save that for a rainy day, and not drain that down. So just wanted to get your consideration to the idea of borrowing for this project. You know, since I've been acting city manager, we have managed to pay, you know, we've been saving for a lot of these projects. And were this a utility project, we have a much larger pool of money for utility stuff than we do for general fund. But since this is not going to be specifically for sewer and only a portion of it's going to be for water, it's going to be primarily streets, stormwater. um, You know, and the treasurer and I we had an initial conversation about, you know, the idea of apportioning a certain amount of it to the water, because a lot of our public works guys work both water and streets, and we split their salaries accordingly. And so it could be argued that some of the cost of this building should be apportioned to the water fund. Um, That creates some finance issues that we need to work through to be able to do that. But that is an option, but even with doing that, I think we're still gonna have to go out and borrow money for this one. So I'd like you to give it some thought. Hopefully Monday night, we can just, you know, have consensus as to whether we wanna go ahead and move in that direction.
Well, I assume at some point in the near future, we'll be sitting down and discussing the budget to come.
Towards the end of this month.
Would more concrete or more viable figures be available as to what kind of grants may be available and from whom? I mean, I just hate to say, well, we're gonna go get a grant. Well, what kind of grant? Who from?
Right.
Is it gonna be a federal grant or a state grant? I mean,
We've been exploring a bunch of opportunities, and
It's
the one,
hard to say, what I'm saying, it's hard to
Yes.
say
yes.
until you know where the big chunk coming from.
Right. And one of the things that we've noted is some of those opportunities are for projects that are considered shovel-ready, and we are not yet. So there may be some opportunities when we have a design that's finalized, you know, and we are working on a building design currently. We had talked about that several months ago. But I don't think we're going to go out to bid for the project until we have some, you know, financing lined up. But once we have a finalized design and a site plan, you know, then we just need to talk about the money. But, you know, we won't have to wait for any approval process or design or anything like that. So we will be at that point where we could say, you know, we are shovel-ready once we get the financing. So, but we just aren't there yet. But Councilwoman Foster has been encouraging us to follow up on the, you know, governor's discretionary grants. You know, I've had conversations with Senator Reedy on the matter. And, you know, hopefully we'll be able to maybe speak with the rest of the delegation. There's an upcoming event in Annapolis that some of us are going to attend. And while this may not be the subject of the day, if we have their ear for a couple minutes, you know, we can talk about this. So, short version, think about it. But, oh, Mr. McCarron, getting back to that, the budget question, we do plan on having a budget workshop later this month. I would like if you could check your calendars for tentatively February 28th. It's the last Wednesday of the month. Present the draft budget to you guys at that point. We're still waiting on some revenue projections right now, but we should have things a little more solid by the 28th. That's about a week later than we normally would do it, but that still gives us plenty of time to work through it and adopt it long before, you know, well before we need to.
Do we know the footprint, the projected footprint of the building? Is this something we can, recognizing it'll be a slab on grade type of construction, can we get rolling on site plans and maybe financing that ahead and separately? Is there any benefit to doing that?
We are rolling on that as well, so, yeah. But it is, yes, it's gonna be a, well, I shouldn't try to provide details without it in front of me, so I'm going to skip on that, but.
Yeah, they have a
But it is
preliminary
going to be a.
design. They have a preliminary design, a rough
It-
preliminary
It's,
design.
it's, I guess what would be the equivalent of when an architect does a, oh gosh, like a schematic type design. So,
I mean,
They know they want so many square feet of
Right.
vehicle maintenance space, so many square feet of
Yes, yes.
water line
We
parts
have-
storage.
we have an idea of the square footage and, okay, the Public Works Director sent me a text. I thought it might have some of that detail, but it was really just regarding Morton Buildings being a source well vendor.
could we
that's
get
a,
that preliminary, the rough one for Monday? I know that, I've seen it over there.
We
at
have a
DPW.
drawing, yes. And basically, it's a, you know, a schematic drawing that shows, you know, we can accommodate parking for this number of trucks and this piece of equipment and this dump truck and so on, and where the training room would be, where the break room would be, wash bays, eye wash station, you know, all the stuff that you need to have in there. So we can share that for Monday. It's certainly not a final design, but it gives you an idea, certainly will give an idea of the scale of the building that we're talking about. And yeah, and you know, this is why we bought the land. You know, I know for those who may not recall or have been on board, we had talked about possibly running water and sewer out to an existing city-owned piece of property. But for considerably less than the cost of running the utilities to that piece of property, we were able to acquire a property that already has water and sewer contiguous to it for much less money.
Does this make the sales mill property surplus? And could the building be financed on some portion of sale proceeds?
I think that we will want more parkland as the city grows. And that is a nice piece of property for development as a park in the future. So I think part of the idea with the Public Works building potentially being there was to perhaps help jumpstart that project a little bit by getting the utilities out there.
I just was throwing that out there.
Yeah, but that, but as the city grows, even with the ongoing Memorial Park expansion project to put the multipurpose fields in that 22-acre parcel that we own adjacent to Memorial Park, that we anticipate when those fields come online, they're going to be fully utilized, and we're still going to be in a crunch for some of the programs.
Parks and Rec is already talking about
Yes.
the fields that can go into the other area.
Yes, so.
Like I said, I'm just
No,
saying,
I mean, they're desperate for the space.
Right.
So, yeah.
So I think that, right, even, you know, even with Memorial Park being, the extra 22 acres being developed, we're still going to be, you know, if we have another significant residential community come online in the next, you know, 10 years, we're going to be scrambling for field space and ball diamonds and.
We already are.
So, right,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, I get it. I just didn't know how much space was there and.
right. Enough
what
for
could be-
fields.
right.
Enough for fields.
So since we already have that property, I would suggest maintaining it, even though the purpose may change from what was envisioned when it was originally purchased. I think we will be happy to have that acreage available within the next 10 years.
And that's already within city limits, correct?
Yes, yes.
And Jim, with that federal funding that I just sent you, with regards to that shovel-ready, my understanding is that you don't have to be like shovel-ready tomorrow.
Okay,
It's within reason of putting in for the grant,
okay,
but that would have to be worked out.
okay. That is minimized on my screen on my desktop downstairs, so
Okay.
I'll be spending some time on that the rest of the week.
Thanks for doing that. Thanks for finding it.
I'm always on the hunt for this stuff.
Yes.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns, or funding discussion for proposed public works facility? Hearing none, proceeding forward to letter of support discussion for Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church.
Should we invite Pastor Frem to come up and?
Would you like to kind of go over your project plan, everything like that?
Chris Frem, I'm the pastor at Trinity Evangelical Lutheran Church here in Taneytown. We're working on 2 grant applications this month. One is in Maryland Historical Trust, and one to Heart of the Civil War Trails, Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area. The one for the MHT is to possibly replace the roof on our building that is 130-year-old slate. So we've gotten our use out of that roof, but it's time to replace it. We're exploring a bunch of options, one being if we can get a grant from MHT, we would be able to perhaps restore or replace it with slate, just like it has now. Of course, that makes it more expensive, but it might still be cheaper with grant money if we can get the grant money. The building currently, in addition to hosting activities for the congregation, we currently host a early Head Start classroom. We have, that meets every day of the week. We have weekly AA meetings in the building. Carroll Health Department does TOPS meetings weekly. We have food pantry, Carroll County Food Sunday gives out food every week out of our building. Twice a month, we have a medical clinic that is operated out of our building. So there's a lot of things happening in that building. And we're always looking for more things to add to that. So it's a significant place for the community to get services and to meet. So we really need to maintain the building, and this is one of the things we're trying to do with the possible grant money. So that's the one grant we're working on. The other one with the Heart of the Civil War Heritage Area is to do repointing on the church parsonage, the house that I live in, which has significant historical significance because of the Civil War. General Meade met with town and church leaders in what is now my mother-in-law's guest room. Our first floor parlor is the room where Meade supposedly met with town and church leaders on June 30th, 1863. So we're trying to preserve that building as well as a historical artifact. Additionally, the house, which was built in 1851 by the pastor at the time, we've also learned that in the 1850 census, he was listed as a slave owner, that he owned a 30-year-old black woman in 1850. The servants' stairs and slave quarters are still there in the house in the back of the kitchen. So those are relics that we think should be preserved. So we're working on a grant to do that repointing to preserve that building. So both of those projects are in the process of being written right now. Those grants are being written, and we're looking for a letter of support from the elected leaders of the town to help us with that project. We've already requested one from Commissioner Vigliotti as well, and be getting some from some of the groups that use the church building. So that's pretty much what we're asking for, is a letter of support from the town council and mayor to support our grant application.
Both worthy projects, I think, Pastor.
Very worthy.
Something that would mean a lot to our town, I think.
I've done a lot of work on the parsonage in my spare time. It's a beautiful house, and it certainly has some historical character. And there's a lot of things going on at the church right now that we're trying to accomplish to keep that building in good condition for the congregation and for the community.
Can we, by consensus, agree to have the city staff draft a letter of support for them? That,
Would you like
I'd
the city
certainly
staff to
support it.
draft it or one of us to draft it?
Not sure.
I'm happy to draft something for your signature.
No brainer.
yeah. We all fairly well in agreement there?
Yep.
Okay.
Ready?
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for your efforts.
Next up, we have public comment pertaining to agenda items.
Actually, I'd like to bring up one thing before we go there. And I apologize for not trying to get this on the agenda ahead of time, but I've been a little busy with the birth of my first grandson. So there was a discussion at the Planning Commission about a number of topics, and they asked that I bring these to council for discussion and to bring these up so that there's some discuss, because we're holding discussions and we'd like to know what council thinks. And you can feel free to either, formally or informally get back to us with thoughts about this. One of the things is, what does council think of the community village zoning overlay? We'd like to hear opinions about that and about its efficacy. Advantages, disadvantages, things you'd like to see changed in it, if anything. I mean, it could be you're happy with it just the way it is. But we would just kind of like to know because, we don't want to operate in the blind and be doing things on our own as a planning commission that the council turns around and says, oh. So the community village, I believe, is one of the big things. One of the other, there are two other issues kind of facing us. I know that the county is in the middle of a housing study. Can we, and I don't know if that's some way we can be kept in the loop about what's going on with the housing study. I do know that at the business breakfast this coming Friday, the County Planning Commission is going to be talking about the economic development land use survey that they did through the course of last year, and that should be a very interesting talk. And the other two things are affordable housing and accessory dwelling units. These are hot topics in the planning community and things we need to be thinking about. So, accessory dwelling units are like building an apartment over a garage, things like that. And they play into affordable housing because they would be a means of providing a rental property. And smaller would be a little bit more affordable. Anybody who pays attention to the Facebook page around here knows that there are always people looking for someplace to live. There's always a lot of discussion about apartments and stuff that are available. And I will say that in the last few years that there certainly has been quite a spike in rental prices and sale prices, for that matter, for properties here in Taneytown. So those are all issues kind of facing us, and the Planning Commission asked if I would bring that to council, and so that's what I'm doing.
Jim,
So I thank you for your,
and Chris, I'm not sure if you know, did they already complete the housing study at the county? I thought they.
no, I think that's in process, and I think we just kind of would like to be,
Okay, I thought they were.
and wonder if, how we could be included in that, in terms and just kind of be informed on the process. But it is in process.
Is it?
But it has not been concluded yet.
Okay. But for some reason, I thought I just heard something about it recently. Maybe not, though.
Yeah.
Do we want to, do you want to put this on for March for like
Yeah, let's,
extended-
if you want to put this on,
discussion?
and it's kind of like, this is kind of planting a seed, and let's put this
Yeah,
on the
just so we
agenda.
can get public comment in for those
Absolutely.
items as well.
Yes.
So, Jim, if you can, the items discussed, kind of prepare for March. And next up, I'm heading to public comment pertaining to agenda items.
Can I make one comment before we leave, we move on? I apologize, but again, going back to our opening remarks about the inappropriateness of a motion that was made during a closed session. During that session, we were concerned about the litigation that was possibly before us. One of the questions arose was whether the mayor was, our lawyer was legally terminated. And we decided to refer this to an outside attorney. The outside attorney has given his report and concluded that he was illegally terminated. So I'd just like to make a motion that we rehire our old attorney.
If you read the legal document, you'd know the motion that you can make in regards to it. It's not to rehire the attorney. There's a specific clause that you have to say. In regards to that, the idea was to wait for the attorney who's going to be here on Monday to discuss it. If council approves, I can give my rebuttal publicly currently right now, little sick, so it might be a little hard, but I can go over it. The idea is that today I talked to the city manager regarding a Supreme Court decision of a state regarding the appropriateness for a mayor to terminate the city attorney, even when there is nothing in the charter that says he can or can't otherwise. And I know when we talked, Jim, the idea was to forward that up to the attorney who's currently looking at it right now for review before Monday, as well as my rebuttal remarks, so that he can address them on Monday, so we know whether we are legally sound or not.
I'm just going to second your motion so that we can have a discussion.
You second.
That's how it's.
We're already had. You guys are past that. We need to move on.
To them or not, and I will make one statement regarding it. And council, I know we all received the recent email from from previous city attorney Gullo. Can I speak to some of the remarks, some of the details regarding that? Specifically, his intent of whether he wants to be rehired or not?
I mean, I would recommend that this conversation be
How do we know that?
I'm not sure that it's relevant to.
deferred to
Relevant?
Monday.
Yeah, I am of the opinion that we should have, because there are potential legal ramifications involved, that we need to take this back in to the closed session with the attorney that we have engaged. And there may well come out of that.
Well,
Do you mind if I say one thing?
didn't we just go through the idea that that we weren't allowed to make that motion?
So
closed session?
here's the problem is that even the motion that you're trying to make, if you read the legal report that was
Motion's
obtained,
been made and seconded.
That's
Mayor.
fine,
I'm
but
not trying to make it. It's
you-
been
the-
made and seconded.
the council can, and this is what it specifically says, Jim, am I able to talk about what it specifically says in that? Just off the top of my head,
I-
what it specifically says is that the council cannot make an executive decision, and that is the reappointment of a city staffer. And that is what it says, and there is, if you
I
know,
would,
This is a contract employee.
I would
That's where you're
disagree
wrong.
with that. That's not, I don't believe that
Jim,
that's how that read.
I would like to point out that in the attorney's review and opinion that was provided in the memoranda of law, a path forward was laid out in that memoranda. We should, assuming council agrees with that, we should follow that path, because that is the way that was described to us as being the proper way to rectify the situation. So I think not following that path that the attorney laid out doesn't get us where we need to be.
Rather than complicate this
Can
further,
I just make an amendment to your motion
certainly.
to declare that the removal of the city attorney in November 2023 solely by the mayor to be a nullity and an ultra vires act of the mayor, and motion to reinstate the lawyer, at which time we can revisit his future contracts with the city to handle all of the legal issues that we're facing right now that are on hold, that some of which he's already been handling and needs to be finished.
Jim, as she makes the amendment to that, please note that I have referred to the attorney in regards to this question, the Supreme Court case that we've already talked that he will be referred to for Monday to go over. So if council makes this decision, I'm not going to stop it. But the idea is if they do over exceed their bounds to reinstate the city attorney, and he decides, and again, we talk about this on Monday, or again, I execute the part where it says we can go for the Maryland delegation review.
That's right.
I mean, I don't know what happens at that point, because my understanding was that we were going to discuss this Monday when the attorney was here.
That was my understanding
that
as
was
well,
the
and I
plan.
think that we ought to
I
hold
think
that.
Can we just can you guys table it? Can we table it?
That,
Because right now, it's a
Now,
sign
can
of
you just let us have
disrespect.
the
It's a sign of disrespect to your mayor, is where we are right now. So
Mayor,
just table
you're
it.
wrong.
You have no
The mayor
idea.
disrespected the council.
So
That's-
just
that's the
table it
point.
and have it in private.
Who are you?
This was not on the agenda.
Who are you?
I'm Kenyatta Brooks. And I've been in this town for over 25 years.
You have, that's
And I've been watching you guys online. You disrespect this man every chance you get.
And you don't
This
see
should
the
be
other side
tabled.
of
This
it.
should be tabled.
No, ma'am.
It's the
Please let us
public's
have
turn
this
to, it's the
discussion.
public's turn to speak.
After we're
But this
done,
was
then
nowhere
you
on the
have-
agenda.
It was brought up, we have the right to do that.
Councilman Tillman was not on the agenda, and neither was this.
That
That's
is
right.
true.
Now we're
And I
taking
do
action on
recognize her
that.
speaking on this item.
Well,
however-
I honestly don't mind waiting.
This is
till Monday to do
ridiculous.
that. It may be better to have the attorney present,
That's right.
advise us our step. our
That's right.
step
And
by
that's
step.
literally all,
Absolutely.
that's all I'm asking. is wait-
Absolutely.
is wait
And
till
exactly,
Monday.
that's why
Gave
this,
us
you
the
know,
list in the
if we need to
report.
call a public session following that
Oh, no, we
meeting
can't.
to,
That's fine. But what I'm
Exactly,
saying is
but
wait,
that-
wait
So
till
are we
Monday.
gonna have the closed session before?
no, what I'm
Other
saying is
session?
that we may end up having
Having
to
a second
call
session.
But we
an
just keep
additional public
pushing this,
session.
we keep pushing this further and further out. and I think
Well,
we're
we had
digging
already
ourselves
made
If
the
I could,
appointment with
please,
the attorney, and so I, you know,
One at a
Give me some non-agenda items
One at a
too.
Part 2 and part 3.
You don't have the floor.
Sorry, everybody hold for a moment. Floor, Jim?
He
Thank
needs
you.
to get control of it.
Okay. Monday evening, we can have the closed session, and we can return to open session after that discussion. We can add a new business item after the closed session, so we can deal with whatever we need to Monday night with the attorney present to make sure we're doing everything properly. So we can hold the closed session, clear the room, you know, make sure the doors downstairs are, you know,
It's a shame that this travesty should have to last for another 3 days or 4 days.
It's our
But I
amazing.
think for the sake
The
of
lawyer's not here,
of
and that's what we
clarity,
agreed on.
it may
That
need
is what we
to.
agreed on, but apparently that's not.
Well, except for that he gave us his decision. We have it in front of us. And he actually gave us paths
well,
forward.
but we had
too.
decided that
Had to
we
discuss it
were going
Monday.
to have the attorney here so that
ask-
we
to
could
answer any
discuss
other
our options
questions.
in a live, you know,
We can still do
contemporaneous
that.
fashion.
Yeah, there's no reason why we can't still
reason to
do
do
that.
that.
Jim, I have a,
That supersedes the motion that you just
The
made.
ruling was very clear. There's no
It's not a
question about the
ruling. It is
It's
a
not
legal
ruling.
opinion,
That's
and
where
it's not a
you're wrong.
ruling.
It is not a legal ruling. It is a legal opinion. It is a legal memorandum. Jim, just to check, again, I haven't taken the Open Meetings Act, but if you take action on items that are not part of what you've gotten to the closed meeting for, is that a violation of the Open Meetings Act?
the council you can amend the agenda as you get into a meeting.
But if
So
we
that is
haven't,
permitted.
but if we haven't, and the call keeps coming for that motion, is that not a violation of the Open Meetings Act?
The issue is what's being voted on would be a violation of the.
Of the Open Meetings Act, yes, because it would violate, again, we had nothing on the closed.
Which is why it
meeting
would have to
agenda.
come back to open session to actually have that vote. You
Which
know,
is
whether
why I
we,
also
whether
did
we
that.
come back into open session that night, or if we, which may be a little bit more advisable, is to set a second date in another couple of days down the line. I understand your exasperation with that, but considering how late the closed session may go, I think that it would behoove us to.
It shouldn't take 10 minutes.
Well,
imagine it's
I
gonna
think
take
that
lot
there's a
more than
lot
10
of
minutes.
discussion and a lot of question and answer to the attorney. You know,
I
his,
don't understand why we're gonna waste his time when his decision is not gonna be accepted.
Jim, did you contact him today regarding the Supreme Court talk that I was talking about, that he would like to?
Yes, he would like to review what you were pointing out.
And that can happen, that's fine. And we can still have an attorney that can do all of the things that we need an attorney to do.
So,
So I suggest that we defer this discussion to Monday night when the attorney is here. I know the mayor wishes to stress a few points counter to or in addition to those that were made in the memorandum. I think it would be most productive if the attorney had the opportunity to review them and be able to respond, just to avoid
Was that information sent to the attorney already, or is he gonna be put
He'll have-
on the spot?
he
at
will
the
have it,
meeting?
he will have it by Friday, and that's something me and the city manager discussed today, that I'll be working to have it to him before Monday, so that he can come prepared for the Monday meeting to rebut the items that I presented before him.
Well,
Because that's the proper way to do it.
So
I'll withdraw my motion.
pursuant to what was in the memorandum, which, you know, thank you for pointing out the specifics of that.
And that's what
You
I
know,
was
it was
asking.
also mentioned that, you know, there could be a resolution drafted to make that statement in a more formal manner. So we will be prepared in the event the council wishes to do that, so that everything is done, I guess, according to, I don't want to say plan, but according to the process laid out by the attorney. And to do that, we can return to open session to take action following whatever discussion we have Monday night. So that way we don't have to drag it out to a special meeting or next month or anything like that. So we typically don't reconvene in open session just because we don't know how long the closed session will take, and we don't want to leave people, you know, standing out front or down in the lobby, but we can do that. And I think in this case, because we may want to for council to take an action that shouldn't be done in closed session, you know, we can return to open session and take care of that business under new business.
I've also requested the city manager to look for legal sufficiency regarding what is being called a contract. Because in Taneytown, for contracts to be a contract, there has to be legal sufficiency approval by a city attorney. There was a city attorney at the time of the appointment of Jay Gillo, but we have not found a document that shows that they approved the legal sufficiency of any contract, obligation, or anything like that, which in my mind would make it null and void for a contract for Taneytown.
Well, I don't think it voids it as a contract. It's, you know, as you and I discussed in the last meeting, you know, it is not strictly speaking a contract, it's an agreement for services. And it was duly approved by mayor and council. I don't think that that's an argument that carries, you know, trying to say that the contract itself, or
So-
that the agreement itself was void. I don't think that that's an argument that carries forward.
And that is, and this is to go into some of what we received, the main argument that is to supersede my ability to remove the city attorney is that he is contracted. So if he does not have a contract,
No, that's not, I think you misread that. It's not,
gives the contract statutes and the professional services statutes as what basically supersedes my ability to remove
that's
the appointment.
that's not how I read what was provided to us. But
That's fine.
I think we need to, I think we need to table this discussion and table the motion that was put forward.
He withdrew the motion.
I just simply withdraw the motion. We'll make a new motion on Monday night.
Okay. Any other additional comments, questions, or concerns from council, I guess?
So now.
Hearing none, I'm going to public comment pertaining to
Public
agenda
comment.
items.
Do you have anything else, Kenyatta?
Hello, good evening. For those of you who don't know who I am Kenyatta Brooks, and I have raised 2 sets of children here in town. I have a question for the city manager. This building that I keep hearing, the question is, you were going to give the square footage, but we never received it.
Oh, we'll have that Monday evening.
Okay, so
I
what
don't
is
have
the
it in front
building
of me.
exactly for, is my question.
It's to house our public works operation.
How's your public, and it's $7
So-
million.
Yes.
So, is there a reason why we're building this building to put everyone in one location, I'm assuming?
It's partly to consolidate the location of all the city
Correct.
equipment, also to get it out of the park, some of the.
Correct. And I did hear you say that it's a bad time, that costs are up. Is
It's
there
not
a
going to get any
way?
better.
Say again?
That's not something that's going to get any better.
Not gonna get any better, but is there a way that you can push it out until we can plan more? Ms. Foster with her grants, I'm just asking, as opposed to going into it blindly or putting the city in more debt? It's just a question I'm asking.
Do we,
That's fine.
do you want me to
Yeah,
respond?
if you have,
Okay. Okay, I just wanted to be clear because this is usually, we hear
Yeah,
comments, not really question answer.
But I may
Well,
also
I-
conclude and answer questions that others in the
Okay.
audience may have.
Right, you can.
Sure. We certainly would have the opportunity to push this farther back in time if we're not able to secure grant funding. That's going to be a huge driver on whether this project goes or not,
Okay.
so.
And I was gonna save this for the next meeting to get on the agenda, but since everyone seems to be a little bit off, I wanted to ask, I know you're building this $7 million building, but we have nothing for the kids. The kids make up a third of the population in Taneytown. We have a lot of land, I hear we have a lot of buildings. What are we building for the children is what I'd like to know.
Councilman-
Under 18, we
You
have
wanna-
30.
Would you like to reply to that,
Under
Councilman Fuller?
18, we have 33% children here under the age of 18. We just put all these new homes up with all these brand-new families with these brand-new children. And my daughter, who's 11, walks the streets like a homeless person, hanging out at the Sheetz, the McDonald's.
We have parks, we have the library, we have.
Okay, but some kids don't want to hang out at a park all the time. All the time? At a library?
the time,
I'm
but-
asking, what are we building for the children?
I'm
A
not.
community
really
center,
sure.
something for them to do?
It's not the city's job to build a community center.
It's
If
not
we
the-
could facilitate
Westminster-
another
West-
organization to come in like the Y, then that would be great. But we've done
Mm-hmm. Well, the Y is
studies in the
expensive,
past.
you can't afford the Y.
We
So,
want something free, which isn't free, because somebody's got to pay for it.
you're right, and just as these grants that she's talking about, you can get grants.
That's not going to be forever. That's a one-time grant to build a facility that these gentlemen have waited a long time for. They have black mold down there. They don't even have hot water in their bathrooms. They sit in a room where water trickles through it every time it rains.
So what you're saying is you have nothing for the children,
What
the
I'm saying
parks
is
and the
the
library.
kids-
I'm just asking.
There's lots of things for children to do, and
Like
this isn't,
what?
I'm not going to get into a discussion
We don't have
about
to.
the
I
fact
just
that
asked,
kids
were we
can't
building
entertain
something for the?
themselves. No, we're not
Oh, wow.
building something for the children.
Do you have children?
I do. I've had 5.
Yeah. I've raised
And
6
I'm the
here.
oldest of 8.
I've
And I
raised-
have 26 nephews and nieces
Basic- and they live
who
in
don't
Taneytown?
need buildings built for them to entertain them.
They live in Taneytown?
They did, my children did.
No, you said all these nieces and nephews.
Yeah, they live all over
Okay.
the place, and they don't
So I'm
have
just
rec
making sure that
centers
there's
either.
not, that we're building $7 million. I'm gonna get off because I'm not gonna beat a dead
Well,
horse.
and that's where we
But
come,
$7 million
because we're having a back
for
and
our,
forth.
that's right. I'm gonna get off, but I'm just asking a question. You've
It's
answered it.
necessity.
You
Yes.
answered it.
I did.
Thank you.
Yes, I did.
And we're bringing new families in here with nothing for the kids to do. Thank you.
So I think I'd like to speak on that. I see Jody sitting in the audience and like, there's so many events that happen. Like I think about the bowling alley, like all the things that you do.
Correct.
I think about the library doing events and activities. I think about Laughing Coffin opening. I think
Right.
about, this summer in the park, there was yoga, there
Correct.
was,
There
and
sure
quite
was.
frankly, like my daughter and I went to yoga. There were 6 of us there each
I
week.
love the yoga.
So
yes.
I feel like I hear this cry that there's nothing for people to do. We have a brand new skate park. We have a brand new playground at the THS park. I hear that cry, but then the things aren't utilized. So that's a problem too.
They utilize it. They
Okay.
utilize it.
Well, there were
but-
6 people at yoga. Just to like put it into perspective, I feel like we do offer free things and we go out of our way to do free
But I never
things.
said anything for free. I just asked, what do we have for the children? Free came out of her mouth, not mine. I just asked, what do
Because
we
you said
have
the
for
Y
the
was too
children?
expensive.
Excuse me?
You said the Y was too much. Like
The
you
Y is
can't-
very expensive for anyone.
They have grants.
I just want to chime in real quick. So going and visiting other cities, I will say, I noticed many other cities in Maryland do have community centers.
That's right, they do.
They're not run by
Even-
the cities.
Westminster.
Cities much smaller than us have community centers.
That's right, they
Some of the
do.
port cities that,
Need to enforce the 3-minute rule.
some of the port cities that I visited back in,
Please.
I guess it would have been October, 2,300 populations, they had community centers.
Well, let me say this. In Westminster, when I lived in Westminster, we sat on a board and we built a $1.3 million community center. We're the reason why the Boys and Girls Club is here in Taneytown, Carroll County today. There never was a Boys and Girls Club here. We brought that here through our community center, and they now have their own facility.
And I will say, I did speak with them probably about a week and a half ago. I was there for 8th grade leadership day. It was me and the Boys and Girls Club giving a speech
Yeah.
about leadership and young leaders and stuff like that. And when I talked with them, my understanding was that they do have plans to come to Taneytown.
They do,
I mean, they are here at the schools, but
Correct.
they do have plans to expand to a
to
facility.
expand, correct.
So I am looking forward to that. And I do agree. We do, we have a skate park, we have parks, but there is a wide variety of recreation activities that kids are looking for. There is a wide variety of ages, and realistically, parks don't cater to every age.
Correct.
You will see the teenagers wandering the streets and everything like that.
Correct.
And yes, we do have businesses and stuff for them to go to, but at the end of the day, people get in mischief because they have nothing to do.
Great. Thank you, I appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenyatta.
Okay. Further public comment pertaining to agenda items? Hearing none, I am looking for a motion of adjournment.
I move to adjourn.
Looking for a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. We are adjourned.